Mm, okay, Virgo. So this one's funny to me. Not funny, but funny in the sense of I sat down, I tuned into your energy, and almost immediately I thought, well, this person's probably already sensed some of what I'm about to say. Because if there's one thing I've noticed about Virgo energy over the years, it's that you tend to know things before they happen. Not always consciously, but there's a part of you that picks up on shifts before they're visible. So I went in expecting confirmation, like, okay, let's see what they already half know and just need someone else to say out loud. And then I hit something that I don't think you've picked up on at all. And that surprised me, honestly, because it doesn't usually happen with you all. You're pretty tuned in. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the thing your own intuition missed. First, let me say something about why this might have slipped past you, because I think understanding that is actually part of the reading itself. Your intuition, from what I can tell, works best on things that are close, things involving people, dynamics, emotional undercurrents, the stuff that's relational. You pick up on when someone's lying, when something's off in a friendship, when a situation is about to shift, even before anyone says anything. That's your wheelhouse. What I'm seeing coming toward you isn't really in that category. It's not relational, not primarily. It's more structural, like something shifting in the actual architecture of your circumstances. And I think that kind of thing is just harder for your particular brand of intuition to pick up on because it's not coming from a person whose energy you can read. It's coming from a process, a sequence of events that's been unfolding somewhere outside your direct awareness. So it's not that your intuition failed, it's more like it was looking in a different direction, watching the people, the relationships, the emotional weather. Meanwhile, something else has been moving quietly in a part of your life. Your intuition wasn't pointed at. Does that make sense? I think so. Um, Let me try to get more specific about what this actually is. Okay. What I'm picking up has a financial quality to it. But I want to be careful with that word because financial readings can sometimes feel like they're promising a lottery ticket, and that's not what I'm getting here. What I'm getting is more like a correction, something that's been miscalculated, undervalued, or just sitting unrecognized, finally getting recalculated in your favor. Let me try an image. Imagine you've been carrying something around for a while, not realizing it has more value than you assumed. Like finding out something you own, something ordinary that's just been sitting there, is actually worth more than you thought. Not because it changed, because someone finally looked at it properly and said, oh, wait, this is actually significant. That's the texture of what I'm feeling. Something that's already yours in some form, already part of your life, that's about to be revealed as more valuable than you've been treating it as. And here's the part where the even you don't see this coming piece makes sense. Because if it's something that's already yours, something you're already familiar with, your intuition might have basically filed it under known. Nothing more to see here. It's hard to sense movement in something you've already categorized as settled, but it's not settled. Something's moving in it, and the movement is good. Have you got something in your life right now, maybe an asset, a project, a piece of work, something you created a while back that you've kind of stopped thinking about as having potential, something you consider finished or done or just sitting there? I want you to hold that in your mind for a second because I think that's relevant. Tell me in the comments if something came to mind because I'd be curious whether it lines up. Let me sit with this a bit more because I want to get a clearer read on the shape of it. Okay, there's a person involved. Not in a romantic sense, at least not primarily, though I'll come back to that because the title does have a heart in it and I don't want to skip past that. But the win itself seems to be connected to someone recognizing something about you or about something you've done that you yourself had stopped emphasizing. I keep getting this sense of someone going back through something, records, files, work, something with a kind of archival quality to it, and finding your name or your contribution or something you made and going, wait, this is really good. Why isn't this getting more attention? And then doing something about it. This person, whoever they are, isn't someone you're necessarily expecting to hear from. They might not even be someone you think about often, but they're in a position somehow to act on this realization, to bring it back into view, to advocate for it in a way that has actual consequences. I feel like there's an element of rediscovery here, something old becoming new again, something that had its moment maybe and seemed to pass, getting a second moment that's actually bigger than the first. Let me stay with this because there's something underneath that I'm not quite getting yet. Okay, here's what's coming through now. The reason you didn't see this coming isn't just that it's structural rather than relational. It's also that on some level you'd made peace with this not happening. Whatever this is, whatever opportunity or recognition or value I'm describing, I think there was a point where you considered it at least loosely and then let it go, not in a bitter way. Just filed it under, that's probably not going to happen, and moved on with your life accordingly. And that letting go is actually really relevant here because I think it's part of what created the conditions for this to come back. There's something almost paradoxical about how this works sometimes. When you're gripping something tightly, hoping for it, checking on it constantly, your energy around it can actually get in the way. It creates a kind of tension that doesn't allow things to move freely. But when you release something, genuinely release it, not as a strategy, but because you've actually moved on, that release creates space. And sometimes things move into that space precisely because nothing's blocking them anymore. So this win, in a weird way, might be connected to your own letting go. Not because the universe is rewarding you for releasing it, that's a little too tidy. More because your energy shifted, and that shift allowed something that had been stuck to become unstuck. Has there been something in your life that you used to really want or really hope for that you've kind of stopped thinking about? Something you made peace with not happening? I think that's relevant here, and I think it's going to surprise you when it resurfaces, precisely because you'd stopped expecting it to. Now let's go to the hard part because I don't want to ignore that, and I don't think it's unrelated either. What I'm getting here is romantic, but it has an unusual quality to it. It's not the typical someone's been thinking about you reading. It's more specific than that. What I'm sensing is timing. Like there's a romantic development that's connected somehow to the same window of time as the other thing I've been describing. Like these two things, the structural thing and the relational thing, are happening in proximity to each other. Almost like they're part of the same wave, even though they seem unrelated on the surface. I keep getting the image of someone showing up at a moment when you're already experiencing a kind of lift in your circumstances. Like you'll be in a state that's already a little brighter than usual because of whatever this other win is bringing. And into that brightness, someone arrives. And here's the thing about that timing. People tend to notice us more when we're in a particular state, not because we're trying to be noticed, but because confidence and lightness are visible even when we're not doing anything different externally. If you're carrying yourself with a little more ease because something good just landed, that ease is going to be picked up on by people around you, even people who might not have really registered you before in the same way. So I think part of why you don't see this romantic piece coming either is that it's contingent, in a sense, on the other thing happening first. It's like a domino effect. One thing creates the conditions for the next. Does any of this feel like it's tracking with something, even loosely? Let me know, because I think for some of you, there's already a person in mind, even if the nature of their interest hasn't been obvious yet. I want to go back to the even you don't see this coming framing again, because I think there's something important about why that's the case, beyond just the categories I mentioned earlier. I think part of it is that you've gotten very good, maybe too good, at managing your own expectations downward, not as a negative thing, exactly, more as a kind of self protection that's become habitual. You've learned, probably through experience, that hoping for big things and not getting them is painful, so somewhere along the way you develop this skill of keeping your expectations modest, realistic, manageable, and that skill has probably served you in a lot of ways. It's kept you from being constantly disappointed. It's made you resilient, adaptable, able to find contentment in smaller things rather than always chasing some bigger outcome. But it also means that your intuition, which I think is genuinely strong, has been operating within a frame that doesn't really include big unexpected good thing happens to me. Not because your intuition can't sense it, but because the frame it's operating in has quietly excluded that possibility as something worth scanning for. You've trained your radar to look for realistic things, and this isn't quite realistic in the way you've defined realistic for yourself. So when I say even you don't see this coming, I don't mean your abilities have a blind spot in some mystical sense. I mean your radar has been calibrated toward modest outcomes, and this is bigger than what the radar's been set to detect. That's worth sitting with for a second. Because if that's true, then this win isn't just a nice thing that happens, it's also an invitation to recalibrate, to start including bigger outcomes in what you consider possible. Because if this comes through the way I'm feeling it, it's going to be evidence that the modest frame was too small. And once you have that evidence, it gets harder to go back to the smaller frame. Let me try to get a sense of timing because I think that's useful here. What I'm feeling is something building over the coming weeks, not a single instant where everything changes, but a kind of gradual surfacing, like something coming up from underwater, slow at first, and then suddenly visible all at once. The early signs might be small. Something that seems like just information, just an update, nothing dramatic. But that small thing is going to be connected to something bigger that follows fairly soon after. If you notice something that seems like a minor development related to whatever this older project, asset, or piece of work is, pay attention. I don't think it's going to announce itself as significant. I think it's going to look ordinary at first. The significance comes after, when you realize what that ordinary thing actually opened up. And on the romantic side, I think the timing is connected but slightly behind. Like the structural thing moves first, and within the same general window, maybe a little after, the relational thing follows. Not so far behind that they feel unrelated, but enough that you might notice the first thing before the second thing becomes obvious. I want to say something about how to be in the lead up to all this, because I don't think the advice here is do something differently. I actually think the advice is closer to don't get in the way. What I mean is, if something small and seemingly minor shows up related to old work, an old project, an old connection, something that feels like it's coming out of the past rather than the present, don't dismiss it too quickly. Don't assume it's not relevant just because it doesn't look like what you'd expect a win to look like. And if you notice yourself feeling unusually light or unusually confident for reasons you can't quite explain, let that be okay. Don't immediately look for a reason to bring yourself back down to your usual baseline. Sometimes we do that without realizing it, because feeling really good for no clear reason can feel suspicious somehow, like there must be a catch. There isn't a catch here. The lightness is just early evidence of something that's already moving toward you. Uh, I want to close with something that I think ties this whole reading together. You're someone who's used to being the one who senses things first, who picks up on shifts before anyone else does, who's often a step ahead emotionally and intuitively in a lot of situations. That's part of your identity, even if you don't think about it in those terms. And this reading is, in a way, an exception to that. This time, you're not ahead of it. This time, it's coming to you, and you're going to be a little bit surprised when it arrives. And honestly, I think that's kind of nice. Not because being surprised is inherently better than being prepared, but because there's something restful about not having to be the one who sees everything coming, about letting something just happen to you for once instead of bracing for it or preparing for it or managing your expectations around it in advance. Let this be the thing that catches you off guard in a good way. Let it be the thing your intuition didn't flag precisely because it's bigger and better than what your intuition has been trained to look for. It's coming sooner than you'd guess. And when it arrives, I hope you let yourself be as surprised as you're going to be. You've earned the surprise. Let it be a good one.